Hello, everyone. This is Sherry, and you are tuned into She Said What She Said, the podcast where we interview, well, usually badass women in the sports world and beyond. But tonight, I don't have a lady. I got a guy. I've interviewed a few good men. They have to be exceptional for me to consider a guy, or the ones that we're talking about, an exceptional deceased woman. So, but this is my second only guy, not talking about any woman because he is that amazing. And that's kind of the fun part too about having my own show is, because him and we've been trying to link up, when we're going to meet up. And then I was like, I have a show. I can just invite him. He doesn't have to be a lady. It's mine. I make my own rules here, guys. So I'm pretty excited to get this going. And we have a new sport. It is one that is on TV. So if you've been watching American Ninja Warrior, we have a five-time American Ninja Warrior coming on tonight. He has done, I don't even want to know. We're going to have to ask him how many marathons, half marathons he's ran. He's an endurance athlete. He has world records for a variety of burpee and push-ups. That's right, guys. So if you enjoy burpees, anyone? No? If you enjoy burpees, yeah, go ahead. We can get that. Push-ups, guy is insane. Literally, like when I send people his Instagram videos, they're like, that's not real. It is. And by the way, he just also happens to have Parkinson's disease. Doesn't define who he is, and he has become a phenomenal athlete with it, which makes it even, to me, just, first of all, his push-ups without anything is just insane. But to add with Parkinson is just, it's inspiring. It makes me want to go do push-ups with 60 pounds on my back or with someone jumping on me or look, man, I got no excuses because he has none. So without further ado, we have the Fox Ninja. We have Jimmy. Hey.
Hey, Sherry. How are you? Thanks for having me on. I'm still waiting for that exceptional guy you're talking about.
It's you. It's you.
Oh,
You are the one.
oh, gee. Wow. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you on the show, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Fantastic. Yeah. And thanks for coming out. Like I mean, your videos, like look, I'm no softie. Okay. That's some other my friends, but something got in my eye. Okay. The first time I watched the American Ninja Warrior intro where they're just kind of going through your story. And then Michael J. Fox came on to like personally wish you luck. I was like, got me. It was phenomenal.
They got me too. A little fun fact about that is that they didn't tell me that was going to be happening. So they what a great time it is to be putting it on the screen, right? right before my first attempt on American Ninja Warrior, and to be honest, when I got on, I only had 5 weeks of training because when my daughter, she's the one that actually dared me to audition or to sign up for the show, and I didn't think there was any chance that I would be called.
Okay.
So I was on the starting platform. I was like a nervous wreck, and then they played the video, which made it even that pressure just increased. But I was super grateful that they did that and reached out to Michael, and super grateful for that message he sent. So it was awesome. It was a great experience.
Yeah, and you got to the third obstacle on your first time.
Not too bad.
That was the balance one, right?
Yeah,
balance. I got you.
Yeah, a guy with Parkinson's and balance is.
I was like, that's not the best one for him to have there. That's a little challenging. But it is like your portfolio of what you've done athletically in itself is just absolutely incredible. Without the Parkinson, you know what I mean? It's just, as you say on your Instagram, you're living with Parkinson's disease. That's like, it's like 5, rows down on your profile. It's not who you are, right? It's just like one small part of who you are.
Yeah. I like to think of myself as just really trying to live the best that I possibly can, if not for myself, for my family.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about how normally this show is a bunch of badass women, but to be honest, it is the badass woman behind me that makes this possible. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter, as I mentioned, she pushes me to go on the show for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, you guys don't see her, and she's always in the background, but nobody sees her, but she's always there at every finish line that I cross. She's always cheering the loudest, whether it's on American Ninja Warrior, you see her on the sidelines,
Mm-hmm.
or even in my world record attempts, you hear her screaming, and then in full support. And then of course there's a third badass woman in my life is my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's taken care of me, and she's taught me a lot, and a lot of the things that I know around the kitchen, and really about how I take care of my family, I learned
Mm-hmm.
from her. So, really, when you're talking to me, you're also talking about these three other badass women.
Absolutely. Behind every good man, there is a badass woman. So yeah, it's
Uh,
not usually the single guys that are out doing great things, right? They usually they have some woman influence in their life.
Absolutely, absolutely, and and it's just something to fight for, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Yeah.
living with Parkinson's, it wasn't always. I mean, you mentioned a lot of things. You mentioned the world records and the American Ninja Warrior and all
Mm-hmm.
the endurance events. Um, but at the end of the day, it, those are all great. But at the end of the day, it's really how am I going to live my best life? And it didn't always start that way. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the young age of 27.
Mm-hmm.
That's 20 years ago. So I've lived with this disease for 20 years.
Yeah, let's talk
And
about Parkinson's a little bit. I mean, it is
yeah,
so rare to be diagnosed even under 60. It's like, was it 8% that are under 60?
yeah, the numbers has grown a little bit over the last couple of
Okay.
years.
As they've learned more about what actually is Parkinson's. And let's actually start there.
Absolutely.
What is Parkinson's? I know I've been like knee deep in the research, so I have it all now. But before, I didn't really know. I just, I kind of knew it was neurological, but I didn't know too much about what it actually is. So let's start
Yeah.
there on what actually is Parkinson's.
So by the book, it is a neurodegenerative disease,
Mm-hmm.
and it affects specific neurons in brain cells in the brain that produce dopamine in your
Mm-hmm.
system, and those cells are slowly dying off over time, and producing a very less and less dopamine. Ultimately, as we all know, or we should know, that dopamine is the chemical that allows the brain to control your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it runs through your system, but those brain cells are dying off over time in people with Parkinson's. So over time, we start losing more and more control of our ability to move. Now, not to mention because of where these cells are, this is the substantia nigra, which is deep in the brain. It also affects cognitive issues over time.
Mm-hmm.
It also affects, just your executive functions over time as well. So Parkinson's, for most people, when I say Parkinson's, immediately think about an old person with tremors.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But many people don't even realize that you can have Parkinson's without even having tremors. 30% of people with Parkinson's don't have tremors.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I do. But over time, it's every person's symptoms and everybody's way that the disease is presented in each person is different, which is what makes
Mm-hmm.
it so hard to diagnose, and which is what makes it so hard to treat.
Right, because there's no like tests for it, right? You're not just going
Yeah.
in and say, "Hey, doc, order me that Parkinson blood test."
Right. Yeah. There's no blood test. There's no swab test.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even a definitive brain scan that you can get
Mm-hmm.
to tell you. Now there's a DAT scan that you can get, but only way to confirm is you have to take it over time and then compare the scans
Okay.
to see that there are changes. Right. So that's still over time. But Parkinson's is diagnosed using observation. It's subjective to the neurologist. And a lot of times, some neurologists can identify it really quickly. Some can't. When I was in the process of being diagnosed, I went through referral after referral after referral. And the first two neurologists thought, oh, you're too young to have Parkinson's.
Yep,
So we're just
absolutely.
going to rule that out. Right. But then the third one, which is a movement disorder specialist, and she was, as soon as I walked in, she looked at me up and down, and she asked me to walk and to move a little bit. And she, within 5 minutes, she says, Jimmy, you have Parkinson's.
Wow.
Right. Just like that. But ultimately, it's somebody's observation. And then it's confirmed. In my case, it was confirmed when I started taking medication. I was given medication, and my movement disorder specialist says, "Look, I'm pretty sure I'm right, just based on my observations of the way you move. Take this. If you feel better, you have Parkinson's. If you don't, you don't. Right? And we're back to square one." So I took the medication.
And the medication, does that infuse dopamine in?
So there's many medications out there for Parkinson's, and they all do very similar things, and they all come back to dopamine. So there are synthetic forms of dopamine, okay, and the name of the medication is scientific name is carbidopa levodopa. It's a combination of two different compounds. But then there are also agonists out there that are designed to preserve the dopamine in your system. Okay. So they don't actually give you synthetic dopamine, so to speak. They try to preserve what you have left in your system. Okay. And then there's different pharma companies make different labels for these types of
right. Yeah. And how is it? I might be getting too technical here, but when I was reading about it, because when I think of dopamine, I think of like antidepressants, right? That are supposed to, I believe, kind of bump up the dopamine, but these are different. So this is a kind of a different reaction to dopamine.
Yes. So, with antidepressants, it's not just dopamine. It's actually a combination of different chemicals that's affected in the brain. But antidepressants work better in people with normal dopamine producing cells in the brain.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
So
because
those
cells are the cells are lacking in people with Parkinson's. It works a little bit differently. That's why with the medication that we take, the synthetic dopamine is actually is actually trying to put artificial dopamine into the system, and the biggest challenge is getting it through the blood-brain barrier through the gut into the brain itself, right? Which in itself presents a challenge, because it depends on what you're eating, depends on what you're doing, how much of that actually gets across to the system. Sometimes you get too much, sometimes you get too little. So it's highly unpredictable, and it's you look at all these things we're talking about already. We're not even talking about the side effects of these medications, right?
Yeah, there's a reason why those commercials are like, it can cause this.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're messing with the brain, right? You're going after the brain. I'm sure there's more than a few possible side effects, and then men might have different side effects in women, where the study's done enough on women, because that's been an issue in medical testing too.
Yep, and especially in the Parkinson's community, unfortunately, there isn't enough women-specific testing, right? And that is a problem. So and let me put it in this way: why it's so important that I continue my advocacy work to create Parkinson's awareness is that this drug that I'm talking about, carbidopa levodopa, and all these other drugs that are available, they all come back to these two compounds, and they're just delivered in different fashion. But it comes back to these two different compounds. These two compounds were discovered before we put a person on the moon, well over 60 years ago. So the best medication we have today for Parkinson's was invented or was discovered 60 years ago.
Wow. That's
right.
That is, we had a cure for polio over 60 years ago, right? So that's like the same time frame, right? Wow. Right. And there's been no real jump since then.
Yeah, there has, research has been improved over the last 20 years, for sure.
Right. Right.
And that's one of the reasons why there's more young onset people diagnosed today. It isn't because that Parkinson's is more rampant. It's because we're better at identifying it. Doctors are better at identifying it, right? And then people are living better lives today isn't because, oh, it's the same drugs from the 1960s, but it's not. They're formulated differently and they're delivered differently, and the way we take them, and along with diet and exercise, allows us to have better tolerance for these medications. So when I was diagnosed 20 years ago, I knew none of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't bother learning any of that for that first 8 years. I completely ignored the diagnosis I was given.
That is so you were diagnosed at 27, so that would be, I'm about to be 38, so I'm just thinking of where I was 11 years ago, right? For you 20 years ago, and you said you didn't even tell your wife for 3 months.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I didn't tell her for 3 months, and only when I decided I wanted to take medication regularly did I decide to tell her, because she's going to see me every day popping pills. I was like, what are those for, right? So I had to tell her, but Parkinson's became hush hush in the house. We didn't tell our friends. I kept it from people at work. I kept it from even immediate and close family members for quite a while before we told them.
How was it, mentally? How was it that first 6 months, 1 year? I mean, what was going through your mind at that time?
I think when I was told that I had Parkinson's, I actually swore at my doctor. I was like, "Are you effing kidding me?" Yeah, and but then I think I immediately went into denial right after that.
Okay.
Because I too was under the assumption that Parkinson's is for older people, and that even at that time, yes, I was feeling some of the initial side effects of early onset of this disease. It wasn't completely hindering me, so I just figured, you know what, if I ignore it, it'll go away.
Right.
It's not going to bother me.
Yeah, Parkinson's goes away. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So and that's what I did. I completely ignored it. My wife and I, we didn't really talk about it. We definitely didn't talk about it with our friends and our family. And I kind of just forged forward. I went into the mindset of I need to work more, because if in the future this thing does come rearing its ugly head in full force, I need to make sure my family's taken care of.
Oh, okay.
So
a logical response. I can understand that.
Yeah. And then, so instead of reducing stress, which we know today is probably a huge key for people with Parkinson's, instead of reducing stress, I went ahead and added a whole bunch of stress. I not only did I continue working professionally in the technology industry, remember, this is 20 years ago, so this was during the birth of the .com era.
Yep.
So this for those younger people watching,
those young people.
This is before Google.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was a highly stressful situation, and I also got into a family business, helping my parents and my brothers, getting in business with them, and that adds an additional level of stress, right? So I really pushed it over the next 8 to 10 years, and did nothing about the disease itself. So I really only made it worse by adding stress. And my state of mind changed. My wife, she calls those these years the dark years.
Yeah, I can see that.
We haven't started our family yet. We didn't. I was diagnosed in 2003, and we didn't have Karina, our oldest, until 2007. So during this time, it was really just trying to heads down, burying, and trying to fight through everything. But a lot of that pressure, a lot of that, and then also the me starting to feel the effects of the disease without acknowledging it, it frustrated me. It made me angry And then that frustration and anger eventually turned into depression. So for a while there, I
Absolutely.
was depressed.
And you weren't getting
And
as much dopamine because your body wasn't producing it. That,
absolutely,
that probably goes hand in hand, I would think, with a lot of people.
yep. And it's just gotten to the point where I just didn't really care,
Hmm.
and I think it showed in everything. And thinking back, I'm sorry that I put my wife through all that through that time, and at the same time, I put the people that worked for me through all that in my
Hmm.
professional life, and then also my family, who I was in business with, right?
Right.
Um, I put them through some of that inadvertently, but I can't. Ultimately, it's still my responsibility. But those are the dark times uh, in my life that is painful to think about. Um, and then when we had our kid, when we had Karina, I was still angry, and just unfortunately, people think, oh, you have a kid, things will be better, right? Your attention will be on the child, but then that's more stress,
Stress. There's a
you
lot
know.
of stress, less sleep. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. More stress for your wife too. So, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so the disease had progressed to the point where I started gaining a lot of weight.
Hmm.
Um, I was about 240 pounds at one point.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't walk without the use of a cane because I kept falling over. I kept losing my balance. And then Mason, my son, the younger one, he was born in 2009. And about 10 months in after he was born, I was carrying him down the stairs. And I figured, you know what? I've got him in one hand. I've got the stairs railing on this side. I don't need my cane. I'm just gonna bring him down the stairs. Sure enough, it's kind of like famous last words, right? You think about
Hmm.
something, it's not gonna happen, and it happened. So the two of us fell down the stairs, and that was my wake up moment. That was when I was snapped, and I knew I had to do something.
Hmm.
I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I knew I had to do something.
Right.
You
And
know.
so, what was and your son was fine. I remember hearing, I think it was in your TED talk or so. You like held him up, so
Yep.
he's fine.
Yeah.
Only your pride got injured. I think was the biggest injury out of that one.
Yep.
So what was your first next step, right? I mean, because you didn't go out and run a marathon the next day, but
No.
it was it just kind of acknowledging out loud that you had it. I mean, what was that
I
next?
think
What
so.
did you do that day? Hmm.
I think the first step was acknowledging that I that
Hmm.
that that this is really starting to affect my life. And I didn't know what to do, to be honest. At that time, uh, I, I wasn't smart enough to find a cure. Right, I
Hmm.
couldn't fund the cure myself, and I wasn't active at the time. I told you I was 240 pounds. I walked with a cane. I
Yeah.
was, but I think I did the next best thing that I could, which was really a selfish intention, if you think about it, because I thought, you know what, I'm gonna look for clinical trials,
Mm. Okay.
and I'm gonna sign up for all these clinical trials, and maybe one of them will be the cure, and I will be the first one to get it. Right? That's the selfish side.
Hmm.
So I didn't care what it was. I looked. I went out and I looked for all these clinical trials, and I signed up for as much as I possibly can. Whoever it would take me, I would go. Right. Uh, so a couple of things happened when I started doing that. Number one, in talking with the researchers and talking with the clinics, I started learning about Parkinson's. Right. I started learning, how a lot of the things I was doing at the time, I was doing myself a disservice.
Hmm.
um, and you know I was learning these things, and then at the same time I'm thinking, you know what, um, some of these treatments that they're asking me to do are risky in nature, right? Because you're being experimented on,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
voluntarily
Hmm.
being experimented. Some involved surgery, some involved medication,
Okay. Hmm.
some were as simple as a questionnaire, or going to physical therapy.
Hmm.
Okay. And I signed up for all of them, because this will tell you exactly where my state of mind was at that time. um, if I got into a clinical trial that went completely wrong and it took my life, it wouldn't have been the worst thing. Right. That was my state of mind at that
Wow.
time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. It was very selfish, right? Because remember, I was there. It was a very selfish thought. I was there because I thought maybe one of these could be the cure, and I would be the first to get it. Selfish
Mm-hmm.
thought, right?
I
And
mean, that's what most people go into clinical trials for, right? Is
yeah, I think
the
it's hope,
selfish.
right?
No one wants to be a human guinea pig. You want to have that hope that you're going to be that first
Yeah.
one.
Yep. And then, after so many of these clinical trials, the one that kind of started to flip the switch for me was it was a physical therapy
Mm-hmm.
clinical trial where forced exercise was used.
Okay.
So they forced me to exercise, and not as in like toss me on the treadmill, force me exercise, but they manipulated my arms and legs.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then after a while they asked me to keep up, right? So by doing that, I started feeling better. I would notice at the end of these sessions, or a little bit after the end of these sessions. Of course, I would be tired, but I would start to feel that my recovery was better. I would start to feel that my days start out better after these sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started to do more of these things on my own.
Okay.
And again, I was overweight. I walked with a cane, so I did what I could. I walked with my cane, and then when I felt comfortable, I walked without it to see how far I can get. And every day I try to do a little bit more.
Wow.
And then that kind of started the snowball effect. Every time I reached a goal, like for example, if today I'm trying to walk around the block once, tomorrow I'm trying to get around the block 1.5 times, right? And then just keep going. And that became my thought, is that every day I was going to try to do a little bit more than I did the day before.
Wow. Were you active or an athlete at all before Parkinson's?
So yes, I was very active in high school, and throughout college. I was a pretty darn good golfer as well after college. Yeah, I was a scratch golfer, and even played in a couple of qualifying tournaments for the PGA, even though I never qualified.
Right, but you're still, you're there.
Yeah, but then after I was given a diagnosis, right? And I'll just use golfing as an example. I was still a good golfer, even though the symptoms had started to take some of my skill away. I was still a very good golfer when I was diagnosed, but because I was told, Jimmy, you have Parkinson's, I immediately said, okay, that means I can't golf anymore, and I shut that down.
Yeah.
And I walked away from the game completely after that.
Wow.
Which is something that I regret doing now.
Absolutely. Right. So you started, walking around the block, and then you jogged around the block, and then you ran around the block, and then you ran a marathon because, hey, why not? Just keep going.
Yeah. So, there's actually everything that I did up to that point is kind of serendipitous, if you will. Because one thing led to another.
Yeah.
And I like to think one thing happened because of the previous things that happened, and that still is still happening up to today. So when I ran my first 5K ever in my life in 2012, I knew I just wanted to keep going because it was making me feel better, right? And then I just kept pushing. Like every time I reached the goal, I kept pushing. And then in 2012, in April, I ran that first 5K. And then I ran my first 10K a month later. And then I ran my first half marathon in September. So when I crossed that finish line in that half marathon, I knew I wanted to run a marathon, right? But the Chicago Marathon was a month away. And I was still new to running, and I didn't know races sell out, right?
Yeah, they do. Especially the big marathons.
It's crazy. Who in their right mind would want to pay $300 to run, 26 miles?
Right? Not me, but there's a lot of those crazies.
Yeah. But so only way to get in is if I ran for charity. Right. And that's really where I found the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Right. And they said, hey, Jimmy, if you want to run this race, we've got one bib left. One Chicago Marathon bib for 2012 left. Do you want it? If you want it, you need to you have to commit to raising $2,000 for the foundation, right? Up to this point, I knew about Michael J. Fox. I didn't know much about the foundation, but this was the first time that I said, yes, sign me up. I'll do it. So and this is also the first time I had to fundraise on, in the name of Parkinson's, right? But in doing so, over the next month, what did I start to do? Where do we always go when we fundraise? You go to your friends and family.
Family friendly.
Right?
Yep. Family first,
So,
friends.
So really for the first time after, 8 years, 9 years, by 2012, it was 9 years after I was diagnosed. That was really the first time I started sharing my story.
Wow.
Okay.
So a lot of people still didn't know you had it.
A lot of people still didn't know I had it. Yeah. My immediate family at this point did.
Yeah.
But my closest friends did. But like my Facebook friends who
that
I
next
see
layer
once a year
of friends.
Yeah. So, I started telling my story and started, sharing why I was running a marathon, what exercise was doing to my body and how it was helping me, why they should, donate their hard-earned money, right, to this cause. And then I also got in touch for the first time with a Parkinson's community of people that are like me. They look like me. They're the same profession. They are very like-minded. Okay. And I can reach out to them with questions and vice versa. And then at the end of that month, I raised more than $5,000 for research.
Wow.
So really in that 1 month's time, I did all that, which was more than my first 8 years combined in 1 month.
I mean, you made up for it. Now, did any of the people tell you, first time marathon, I probably wouldn't recommend just having the 1 month of preparation?
Well, yeah, I was warned, but I was so determined, and my sight was focused on it. And I did. I went out there and I did it. And
was the half marathon the longest you had ran before? Like, did you do any runs longer than 13 before you did the half, or was that the longest?
It was the 13 at that, and in September 13 was the longest I ran.
Yeah.
And then I quickly had to ramp up to 16, to 18, and to 20.
Yeah, there's that whole formula of trying to get up to 80% of the mileage.
Right.
Whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. But so it was after that, because I raised that money and I started getting in contact with the foundation and different resources. These doors started opening up for me that I decided I wanted to do more. Right. And then, marathon after marathon, I would raise money for Parkinson's research. And, next thing you know, fast forward to this day, I've done 16 marathons. I've done 1 ultra marathon. I've done more than 105 or 106 half marathons. I don't remember anymore. Countless 5Ks, 10Ks, and other distances. I've done triathlons. I've done century bike rides, 120-mile bike rides.
First, I think, and only person with Parkinson to do a sub 5 hour 100 miler.
Yes, sub 5. Yep, sub 5 100-miler, and that's holding 20 miles per hour average.
Yeah. Say, do you even stop to take a break, or you just go?
No, we went, and I couldn't have done it without a team, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not doing that solo.
Yeah, I was not doing that solo, and I had a team, and the team was completely all in trying to help me achieve that, and they did. Absolutely. We did it with 4 minutes to spare. Wow. And when I came in, they wouldn't tell me the time, and I wasn't allowed to keep time for myself. They said, just follow us, we'll get you there, right? As long as you're with us, some of us, by the end, we'll get you there. And when we got across the finish line, they told me I had 4 minutes. I was like, we could have stopped for a sandwich, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I had to pee. Jesus.
Yeah.
But, man.
It's those accomplishments were all great. And then that led to, of course, then, the weight fell off, and I started eating right. Yeah,
you have to. You were sleeping a lot, right?
Yep.
You can't have insomnia when you're running a marathon.
And at the end of all that, those are some amazing accomplishments from a personal level. But I always say that what I'm most proud of is the fact that during all of that, up to today, my wife and I have helped raise more than $750,000 now for Parkinson's research.
I was going to ask because so he did a TED talk because I didn't even say that because there were so many other accomplishments I missed. You've done a TED talk. That was, I think, 2019. At that point, you said you had raised over $250,000. So now between 2019 and 2022, we've added another half. So we are exponentially growing.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Being an American Ninja Warrior helps, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. But I like to think that it's NBC and American Ninja Warrior gave me a platform to share the story and really talk about the disease and bring the disease more into an everyday discussion because Parkinson's is such a hush disease. Mm-hmm. Even with those who live with it.
I remember when Michael J. Fox first came out with it. I mean, one, he was pretty young for having it, if I remember correctly. And two, I didn't know anything about it, Yeah. It was, and it seemed like it was like, oh, this death sentence, like Michael J. Fox. And then look at him, he's thriving, he's
he was diagnosed when he was 29 and he came out 8 years later. Okay. Yeah, very similar. 8 years later, he came out publicly with it when he walked away from Spin City.
Which I loved that show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's such a hush disease that almost everybody that I meet with Parkinson's, they don't want to disclose it to their employer because they're afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. They don't want to disclose it to their friends and family because it might be looked upon as a weakness. Mm-hmm. So I'm really trying hard to show people that it is not a weakness. And I'm not saying that Parkinson's is yay, lots of fun. No, It sucks. All right. Mm-hmm. It sucks. But I really want to show people that people who live with Parkinson's are not weak. In fact, we're probably one of the strongest people out there to have to endure the disease and everyday life. Right. Mm-hmm. And, at the end of the day, I would just want to get this out into the open and more conversations because I get stared at all the time in the streets, at grocery stores, trying to stick a credit card into the tiny slot to try to pay, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine doing that with tremors, a 1/8 inch thick card into a 1/7 inch slot.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then, and trying to take pills, reaching into these pill bottles for these tiny little pills with tremors, you're going to spill them everywhere. And
of course they give you tiny pills for disease with tremors.
and here, and check this out, right? This is another part of Parkinson's awareness. People may not know why there's no common sense why you should make a pill that small for people who have tremors. Well, the answer is there is a reason for that. And it's because, remember, everything about movement is affected with Parkinson's, including your larynx, your swallowing. Right? So if the pill is too big, there's a chance that you can choke.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right? So that's another reason, right? So
all these little things that someone has to think about and
absolutely. This is another reason why I think it's very important that we talk about the disease itself, because people, again, they think of Parkinson's as an old guy with tremors, right? Mm-hmm. Think about it this way: it's anything that moves in your body can be affected by a movement disorder, right?
Right.
So I already talked about swallowing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, bowel movement is a movement. Right.
Yeah, and your intestine is long. That's a long way to go. So there's
a long way to go.
Places that things can
slow down.
Have some issues. Mm-hmm.
It's a really crappy problem to have.
Hey, I said no poop jokes on here.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I'm just
well. This is the level of sophistication you get when you ask me to come on this
I love it. I love it.
But other things that people don't think about, your tongue is another muscle, right?
Right.
I bite my tongue almost every meal because it's not listening to my command, so it doesn't move out of the way on every bite. So I bite my tongue. So sometimes chunks of my tongue come out, And my family is just like, oh, that's gross, Dad. I'm
Oh
like,
my
yeah,
God.
well,
Hey, it was a
I'm
good
used to it.
steak, right?
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
man.
It's a little bit rare, but it's okay.
Where'd that extra blood come from? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
boy.
And
Oh
then
man.
like other small things, tremors in your ear, right?
Hmm.
The little muscle that expands your eardrums. You know, that's constantly moving, and
Hmm.
I can't hear out of my right ear because of that. Right.
Oh, wow.
So these are little tiny things that no one ever thinks about that can be debilitating in your everyday life. You know.
Some of those are those invisible disabilities, right? Because people see the tremors, but you said 30% of the people don't have them. But yeah, it
Right.
could be the loss of hearing,
Yeah.
the issues with their throat, all those things.
Loss of
Jeez.
smell. I've lost my
Mm.
smell over 8 years ago, and that
Oh
was
wow.
way before it was cool to have COVID, right?
Right.
The
Yeah, you were
loss of smell.
the founder of it.
That's
Oh
that's
man.
right. And actually, loss of smell is actually one of the early indicators of people with Parkinson's.
Oh
You
really?
know,
So
by
now
the
we can tell
time,
people COVID or Parkinson, one or the other.
yeah, that's great, right? We, um, but it's by the time that motor movements are noticeable by the human eye,
Hmm.
we've already lost uh, more than 60% of our ability to produce dopamine. So,
So all
by the
those
time,
small internal things go first. Okay.
yeah, and
Wow.
it's all happening. And then, speech. I
Hmm.
do warm up exercises before I speak so I can
Mm.
project my voice. But a lot of people with Parkinson's lose their ability, or the speech softens
Hmm. They
because of the
slur a bit.
disease.
Hmm.
Yep. And
Yep.
then there's drooling, facial masking. I mean, I can go on and on. And the reason I keep bringing these up is because I just don't think people realize how debilitating this disease really is. Because number one, I may or may not be helping the cause by breaking world records and
Hmm.
and doing the stuff that I do on TikTok. But if
Hmm.
you look at and if you have time, or people have time, if you look at my content over the last 2 years, you can definitely see a slowdown in the way
Okay.
that I'm
Hmm.
that, that
Hmm.
I'm that I'm moving. So I know it's not going to last forever, but I credit a lot of that to just really the study of the way that my body moves. You
Hmm.
know, living with a movement disorder, I figured, what, if I can learn to move my own body weight around in the gym, I can learn to move my own body weight around in everyday life.
Let's talk about moving your own body weight around for a little bit because, yeah, you have world records and probably people's least favorite thing ever, the burpee. And then
Yeah.
I know Derek might come for your burpee world record, though. I think he's going to let you hang on to that one for a little longer, but I know he's on his streak. And also push-ups. First of all, why is a big one. How and just how did you decide to go from all these ultra marathons and these? Oh, shoot, I'm think his internet's left, so we will wait for him to come back. But yeah, so he has world records in push-ups and in burpees, and there he is again. I was just saying, you have the push-up and burpee. So let's talk about your push-ups, right? Because this is not a world record, or you're not just doing regular push-ups. You are propelling your entire body, so you're flying. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the push-ups came by opportunity,
Okay.
and so I'm just gonna backtrack
Yeah.
real quickly back to the burpees. I started doing burpees a few years ago, just before the pandemic, because remember I was telling you, I lose my balance and I fall a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was running, and if my legs don't cooperate, then I would take a fall. So I started thinking, what can I do from a fitness perspective um, that can help me with falls?
Mm.
So if you think about it, a burpee is a controlled fall,
Controlled fall. Yep, and then you jump right back up.
and then you get up, right? You teach
Ah.
yourself to get
Mm-hmm.
up. So I started incorporating burpees into my everyday training, and
Mm-hmm.
then just like everything that I've done, it's a little bit more each day, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 reps became 10, 10 became 15, et cetera, et cetera. And then I started doing a lot of them. I started doing 10-minute burpee challenges where I don't stop for 10 minutes. I started doing, see how many I can get done in a half an hour, every minute on the minute. And then I realized I'm starting to get good at them fast,
Mm-hmm.
good. And that's what kind of led to the world record for burpees. It was during the pandemic. I had nothing else to do at home except do a lot more burpees, and that gave me the opportunity to break the burpee world record.
Now, what is your current record for burpees?
So the record was set at 30, which is 30 hand release chest to ground burpees. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the burpee where you got to do a push up, but your hands have to go out to the side as well.
Okay.
It has to release off of the ground and then come back and push off. So it was 30 in 1 minute. And then now, as you can see, we're doing a lot of push-ups, right? Mm-hmm. So I got stronger and I got really good at doing push-ups.
Got it.
So that kind of is where it came the opportunity to break this push-up world record. And you're right, it is not a standard push-up. It is a push-up where I have to take my entire body over a plane that's dedicated on the floor, a plane, and I have to take my hands and feet without bending knees or hips and getting myself over from one side to the other. And I really started getting good at being explosive with my push-ups.
Yeah.
Because when I was training with my burpees, I realized that there are ways to do a burpee faster.
Right.
And that is doing a plyometric, like an explosive push-up. Mm-hmm. So you're not spending too much time squatting, right? And that's kind of how the two tied together, and one led to the other.
Okay. One insanity led to the other insanity. I love it. Now, you think Derek's going to go after your record for burpees?
You know what? I hope he does. Records are made to be broken.
Okay, I like that spirit.
They're made to be challenged, and there's no better person that I can think of to take that away than Derek.
Yeah, and people that don't know Derek, he will be on the finals of American Ninja Warriors. I think the finals start next week, right? This Monday was. Yes. So we have, was it 2 Ultimate Ninja people? Mike from Libertyville and Derek from our beloved Chicago gym that got taken out in that fire. Or is there a third? Yeah. No, it's just 2 of them, right?
So there's 2, but then the people that work out in our gyms.
Yeah, there's someone else that I didn't know.
There's Tyler Yamauchi who works out in our gyms. There's Cameron Baumgartner who works out in our gyms. There's Joe Brown who works out in our gyms. So there's many. Yeah.
He didn't make the finals though.
That's true. That's true. You're right. You're right.
I'm thinking for the finals, I think we only have 2 of them that we're watching. I know Joe's. I felt so bad for Joe in his semi. His qualifier hit the buzzer. I mean, I would see him in the Chicago gym, and then he's had a little oops moment on there. But I'm sure he'll be back because he is.
Oh, he'll be back.
Oh, he'll be back. He's such an amazing ninja. And so so you're saying that you going into American Ninja Warrior, you had 5 weeks to prepare, because if people don't know, people ask me about this a lot too, is like, how do you get into American Ninja Warrior? And it's like, well, it's actually not like a competition. It's an audition. Obviously you have the people that are the Dereks of the world, right? That are the very high power, but also they do these heartwarming stories that make a cold-hearted person like myself tear up a little bit, bringing into the light of these causes. And it's just such a unique competition, right? I mean, this season we had the gentleman that was a bone marrow donor. That one really stuck out to me too, is these causes. So like, how did you do your audition tape? Did you show yourself doing like ninja stuff? Did you talk about Parkinson's?
No, it's actually so I did talk about Parkinson's in my audition, but really it was all about my daughter. Okay. My daughter was at the time already competing in the kids, competitions and things like that, and she loved the show. Every year she would ask me to get on the show to somehow, right? And I would bring her to these. To ninja gyms, across the Chicago area 2 or 3 times a week, so she can compete and train. So she loved it. So really, I talked more about her and why it was important for me to get on the show. It was for her. It was gonna be, and of course I showed my athletic abilities to show that, hey, you're not just bringing somebody on who's gonna fall on the first step, right? So I didn't have a lot of ninja experience at the time. So I showed, a lot of my marathon
Okay.
endurance events, and then just like lifting things around, and then really
Okay.
just being with my daughter, training with
Okay.
her, and that was how I got on the first year,
Mm-hmm.
and then every year after that, it's been how am I improving myself? How am I learning new skills that's not just ninja related, but
Mm-hmm.
also life related, you know.
But your ninja
Um,
skills have gotten better. I mean, you're a coach now.
yeah,
How long have you been coaching ninja for?
I've been coaching adult obstacles now for I want to say 2 years.
Okay. At the
Yeah,
Naperville location of Ultimate Ninjas.
Naperville Ultimate Ninjas.
One
So
day I'll come out. I swear it's a long drive for me.
yeah, well, I'm coaching this Friday if you're free.
I'm actually in New York. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're
Yeah,
in New
I
York.
actually did already have that excuse ready. Um,
Yeah. But it was all about my daughter. And then here, if you
mhm.
don't mind a shameless plug,
Do it.
on Labor Day, actually, they're going to air a special on American Ninja Warrior. It's a family special where family members got to run together with other family members.
Ah,
So that will actually be the last time that people will see me on American Ninja Warrior. But what's more important to me is that they also get to see my
see your
daughter
daughter.
on American Ninja
Oh
Warrior.
my God, I'm so excited because that's like the fiance one that the spouse fiance one.
There's a couples edition that they haven't aired
Yeah,
yet.
that's what I was saying. Yeah, the I
Yeah,
remember
but
I don't know if they actually aired that yet or if I just
no,
remember
not
them
not yet.
filming. Okay.
Yeah, they filmed the couples edition. They never aired it.
Yeah.
Haven't aired it yet. But they did film this family special a while back, and they're gonna air it
Okay.
on Labor Day
Oh, I will
this year. So
absolutely be watching that.
yeah, so I'm very excited for people to see what my daughter did.
Is your daughter still
Um,
competing in ninja or is she focused more on softball?
she is focused on softball now,
Mhm.
but she coaches ninja at Ultimate Ninjas Naperville.
Ah, okay. The kids.
Yeah, she coaches the kids.
Oh, fantastic. So yes, look, a badass woman
A
right
badass
behind
woman. That's
dad getting you into the
absolutely,
show. Oh man,
absolutely.
that is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, since now that you're kind of hanging up your ninja, I'll say sword, right? Because we're going to be an actual ninja. But I know that you're not just going to sit around and do nothing. So, what are your next like fitness goals, right? We've done the sub 5 hour 100-mile run. We've done the marathons. We've done the ultra marathon. You've done Spartan races. You guys didn't even hear about this.
Yeah.
Was it 2018? You got fourth in your age group at the World Championship.
Yep.
No
2018.
big deal.
No.
Guys, I'm excited when I get like fourth in my age group at a local race. Okay, this guy went to the World Championship. So we got world records. So what is your next fitness adventure?
Right now I'm at the point of my age. Right, I'm 47. I'm at the point now where my body is starting to slow down for a couple of reasons. Number one, of age, and number two is, of course, Parkinson's progression. Right. But my goal has always been to try to stay on pace with Parkinson's. And I think that's really where my focus is going to be on in this next phase in my athletic era, I guess. And really, because I'm going to be living with this disease for a very long time, and I need to make sure that I preserve my body so that I can live well and my body parts can be the best that they can be, as I age and as I get older, living with this disease. So I'm concentrated right now on really learning about how I control each part of my body. I've learned how to really hone in on certain muscles and isolate that muscle in its own movement, which is something that most people can't do without Parkinson's, right? But I think one of the reasons why I'm able to do a lot of the things that I do is because I'm starting to understand how to control and starting to understand how I'm able to do those things.
Right. Your kinesthetic awareness has got to
Yeah.
be right. It's like going to physical therapy, right? Where I'm always in physical. One of my best friends is a doctor of physical therapy. So, but yeah, he's like, no, you got to isolate. You're like, oh man, like, your body protects what's injured. And so it uses the other muscles. So when you isolate, most people can't do that. As a great athlete myself, I sometimes have a hard time isolating as well.
Yeah. So, I guess the next part of me is really just become a student of my own body,
Mm-hmm.
and really just trying to be the best that I can. I will continue to coach others. I will continue to do advocacy work around Parkinson's, which is my main passion right now.
Mm-hmm.
I go around and I speak at events related to Parkinson's and non related as well. Um, but I also sit on the patient board of the Michael J. Fox Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
helping and representing those other young onset people with Parkinson's to the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I sit on the board for Rocksteady Boxing, which is a boxing program that's dedicated and designed for people with Parkinson's.
Oh, I did
Yeah,
not know about that.
yeah, and it's a nationwide program that's gone global in the last couple of years. Uh, COVID has slowed it down a little bit, but
Sure.
we're picking up steam again. But there are Rocksteady programs in every state,
Mm-hmm.
and there are Rocksteady programs in Europe and in Asia right now. So
Wow.
yeah. So, more and more people with Parkinson's are realizing that exercise is our first and best defense against Parkinson's.
That's
And
good.
a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure. So I wasn't able to make your 5K fundraiser this year because it was the same day as the Highlander Assault race I was going to do.
That's right.
But I know you do the local, you have your own 5K in
Yep.
Naperville. Are you still going to be running some marathons, halves and 5Ks next year besides your own? Or are
No,
you
my
focusing more
my
on other people doing it?
my running days are over. My distance running days are
Say
over.
no, don't say that.
I mean, I still run, I would say on a weekly basis, I still rack up about anywhere between 20 to 30 miles a week
Okay. Mm-hmm.
in running, but I just don't have the appetite anymore, so to speak, for the long training,
Mm-hmm.
for marathons and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I will run any 5K, right? I
Mm-hmm.
will run 10Ks,
Sure.
and my wife and I will continue to focus on our two annual fundraisers. Number one is our 5K in May,
Mm-hmm.
and that is held at Bolingbrook High School, and it will be again coming up in 2023 in May. And then the other one is that my wife and I host a virtual fundraiser called Movember. So
Oh,
every November we challenge other people to move. 2 years ago it was burpees and push-ups and planks. Last year it was every day in November everybody move a mile,
okay.
um, which was inspired by my son running a mile every day for
Okay.
100 straight days.
Nice.
And then this year we're still working on it, but we're going to be inviting people in, and usually people around the Chicago area and our gyms join in. People all over the country join in,
Oh,
and
I'll definitely be joining in on that one and meet
yeah,
some
it's
people.
good.
I will hold it. You haven't announced what it is yet. If it's 100 burpees a day, I'm out. I'm not.
No, we've done burpees already 2 years ago, so we won't be
Yeah,
going
so I,
back to
I
that.
think burpees are a thing of the past.
But you're an OCR racer. You should be doing a
That's what
burp.
I think. I do a lot of burpees, and I've done a lot of burpees. I'm trying to get better at some of these obstacles, so I never have to do a burpee. Let me tell you, the first race that I did that I was burpee free, it was the greatest because I could now, like, the sprint distance, I'm pretty
Yeah.
good at going through. Spear throw, I'm still 50-50, but everything else, it's like, unless the conditions are terrible. So I'm trying to get much less burpees in the longer ones too. Will I see
I
you on a
love it.
Spartan course next year?
You will see me on a Spartan course next year. So it's just a matter of which one. But yeah, I'll be
Uh-huh.
out there running some Spartans.
Uh-huh.
So I think obstacle OCR is not out of the picture for me, because I
Mm-hmm.
still enjoy the obstacles and I still run, and putting the two together, right? What's better than that?
Isn't it so fun? Like, I would never do
Yeah.
a marathon. It would be so boring. I mean, I would maybe do a half, but that also seems boring. But like, I would much rather like have stuff going on and thinking about this and just,
Thank you. See, that's what I said. But did you
yeah.
know that in 2019, it was my last 2019, yeah, because 2020 was pandemic. So
Mm-hmm.
2019 Chicago Marathon was my last Chicago Marathon. I did that Chicago Marathon, and I stopped at every mile marker and did the number of burpees for that mile marker.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
And so at the end of the full marathon, I did the marathon and I did 351 burpees along the course. So so it's not really a marathon. It's I'm doing stuff along the way.
Oh my God, that's just another level of extra. Right?
And
you didn't start at 26 and count down. You counted up.
Yeah, I counted up, and then so by mile 20, you're doing at least 20 every mile.
Oh
right?
My God! So you're
I
don't want another mile. I want the longest mile of all time. Oh,
but you know
God.
what was really cool about that entire story was that I started doing that because I was running with a friend who was injured while training for the Chicago Marathon, and I was just trying to get her through. But I figured, if we stopped at every mile marker, it'll give her some time to rest, and take her focus off of, she's going to be in some pain because her training was halfway when she got injured, and she was committed to running the marathon, raising money for the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
Okay, fantastic.
So I stayed with her the entire time, and I figured, breaking them up at every mile and giving her time to relax and take her mind off of the race itself might help a little bit.
And laugh we still at you having to do burpees.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? Maybe the pain is on me for a little bit, and that takes it off of her. But we still did it in just over 5 hours, so it still wasn't a shabby time.
Not bad at all. Yeah, with a few 300 burpees. Yeah. Why not? Tell Derek to do that.
Right.
That should be a world record. There
is a world record for the burpee mile. And
for the burpee mile, but what about a burpee marathon?
I think I need to look that up.
Yeah, we should. It's crazy people sitting around making crazy things. And one thing that I also love about your Instagram page, which I didn't talk about yet, but I love how you address some of these troll type comments that people come up with. I particularly love the one about that dude that he curled 40-pound dumbbells. Ooh, so there's no way a girl can handle. And I'm just, the fact that you see these rude ass people and you take it and you make a whole video of it and you prove them wrong, instead of letting it fester to you. How do you just stay mentally on top of it, right? Because that can make no one wants to see people say mean things about you.
Yeah, and I get a lot of trolls on my TikTok. I have quite a bit of views and followers on TikTok, right? And I do get a lot of that. And at the end of the day, I've learned early on that actually this was Michael J. Fox's one of his best advices to me is you can't let the negative comments get to you. Right, you just got to brush them off, right? And then he also taught me that you have to be able to laugh at yourself, too. So, that's why I try to put a little bit of comedy into some of my responses, right? But at the same time, being, a little bit of a lot of pushback, but somewhat respectful, right? Somewhat, and backing up with facts, with proof and video and things like that. I think that just it helps me mentally to get that message across, and I think it also helps me spread the Parkinson's awareness because I will always sprinkle some of that in. Yep. But in that particular case that you're talking about, my real motivation for creating that video is because I have a badass daughter in sports, right? And I see her and her friends. And, I know a lot of badass women athletes that are underestimated because they're women. So I wanted to make sure that women athletes know that they have my support. And I wanted my daughter to know that she will always have my support. Right. And that these trolls are not going to take anything away from her because of that.
I love it. And, it was just the Deca Fit event for women, it is a 40-pound farmer carry in both arms. So suck it, random dude talking about
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure in college I was probably curling with, damn near 40s too. Like, you think 40 pounds is a lot for your curls, buddy? Come to I work at Quads, the bodybuilder, mecca in Chicago. Like, these dudes will like laugh at you.
Absolutely.
I had quite the reaction to that one, and I was very glad. Just the what you did, it made me smile, and I appreciate it. And the 40 pounds, because I just did like the Deca Fit, so I'm like, yeah, I literally just did 100 meters. I don't put them down, like, because I do my normal farmer carries with 50, or if I'm doing 40, I put towels around it to get a little extra grip, make it a little harder, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
so shame on that guy thinking a woman carrying 40-pound dumbbells is heavy. It ain't.
Yeah, and and you know what? And it gave me an opportunity to show off Carolyn, who used to work in Chicago, right? I think have you met her before?
No, I haven't. She was, but
okay.
I've heard about her.
Yeah, she's incredible. And then of course Tori, who's my coach.
Yeah, she's a legend.
Yeah, and then of course Kim, and then Yoko. Yoko was the one that I ran the Chicago Marathon with. And did the 300.
Okay.
So, and she's 50 years old. I mean, come on. It's,
yeah.
People really need to stop, throw like a girl, or, a lot of that antics need to go away.
Yeah. And I'm seeing more and more men stepping up and saying that type of behavior is not acceptable for them, which I love. And I appreciate guys that, and I also enjoy your humor too, just in general. Like when he ripped apart the cards talking about being a surgeon.
Hey, that guy was comparing Parkinson's to being a surgeon. I mean, come on, that's what, of course. Yeah. It's apples to apples right now.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. Well, I appreciate you so much coming on and talking about a very important subject, but shining some light on it, giving some motivation. As my final question for you is, looking back at your journey, looking back to the future, what is the one lesson that you try to instill to your children?
It's that life is going to throw obstacles at you. There's always a way around it, right? But it's up to you to find what that route is. It's not always going to be a straight line through it. Sometimes you got to take 2 steps back to move 6 steps forward. But whatever life obstacle throws at you, there's always a way around. And I like that Back to the Future reference you just threw in there. I don't think I didn't catch that.
Huge fan. Absolutely massive fan. Oh man. And I just love that you're like friends with Michael J. Fox, because it was like Back to the Future, Spin City, such a fan. My whole family's a fan. And I really have enjoyed seeing him, what he's done for Parkinson's is, I can't really think of another celebrity, right, that's taken one cause and just turned it into something so major, and what he's done with this. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I look forward to learning more about Parkinson's, doing some fundraising for you, because we got to get you to a mill, right? 3/4 isn't that exciting. You pass a half, you got to get to a mill.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. And the entire Chicago area obstacle course community has stepped up in one way or the other over the past few years to help out. And I'm super grateful for that.
Fantastic. Well, you have a great one. And I will be in Plainfield in, 2-3 weeks. So if you want to do a Deca Fit with me, let me know. Or if you want to get breakfast afterwards, that's fine too.
Sounds good.
But you have a great one, and I'll be looking forward to the November challenge.
All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All
Bye.
Right. Bye-bye.
Oh man, what an interview, what a show. I don't really have much else to say because, like I said, I try not to let the fangirl come out on Michael J. Fox, but obviously it did. Those are like my favorite movies. I watched all those movies, and like a lot of people, when his diagnosis came out, like you think it's a death sentence, right? And it's not. He's prospering. He's doing so well. And then you look at Jimmy, man, and he is kicking ass. He's doing stuff that the normal amazing athlete can't do. and is really inspiring. And his message to his children is, it expands all messages, right? It's not just Parkinson's, it's not just a disease. We all will have obstacles, and it's just how we get around them, get through them. And maybe we fail a little bit. We got to do our burpee penalty, and then we get right back on track. And so, on that note,
this has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.
bye.